welcome to the Spirit Hunters podcast. I'm Lance White Eagle, and with me this evening are
Chrissy,
Hunter White Eagle,
Brenda,
Lisa.
oh,
Shay.
so we're not doing last names this time?
Alright.
Spirit Fingers.
And today's podcast
Spirit Fingers.
is one
Yeah.
specially requested of us from one of our TikTok viewers, and they asked if we could do a episode
Did you see that?
On types.
on the different types of ghosts and entities. I got distracted because Hunter was doing something weird with his coffee.
No.
It's a magic
My
trick.
coaster stuck to the bottom of my cup. Let's see. Did you hear that noise?
So first off, I think we could,
I know.
whoever, let's start
It's a
with
more little unconventional podcast.
yeah. So who wants to jump in? First off, I think we should define what we mean when we say spirit. Mr. Shady.
Yes. Anyways,
Anyways.
It's like
So when we use the term spirit
Saturday Night Live.
in regards to our podcast or the name, what does that entail?
well, it tells a bunch of things. It could be. We kind of group
we have
all
some
kinds of
tricks.
different entities into spirits because it's a little easier. It could be celestial, it could be human, it could be animal, it could be all kinds of different things, and we're going to discuss some of the cooler ones here in a minute.
Yeah. So for our purposes, spirit, when we refer to spirit hunters or something like anything that is supernatural but without physical form.
We
Right,
define-
not in this plane of physical existence, but close enough.
Interaction.
Should we define how we see spirits real quick before we go on to the
I use my eyes.
That tends to be the best vessel for viewing.
It's one of those late night.
Well, like what
Sipping
how
on.
we see spirits is in like our relationship
yeah.
to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we as majority natives and
Hey, Chris.
Oh,
I mean, I'm
Catholic,
yeah.
Polish.
I'm sorry.
I was
Yeah.
raised Catholic. Yeah.
yeah, so we see them
And
as
others in our group, you just are seeing mostly the core group in these
Yeah.
podcasts.
we see spirits as as real as you and I, just in a slightly different form, less physical
Invisible.
most of the time, I guess you could say. But
Yeah.
I mean that was it.
And I think that's one of the big differences, and we've talked about this before, that kind of separates our group from a lot of ghost hunting groups is, and Shane's mentioned this multiple times, but we go into it with that mentality. This is a being of some sort, and as a being,
A bean.
It's a bean.
we treat them with
Spiritual beans. Yeah.
with a certain level of
4 brown ones and 2 white beans.
Couple of baked.
extra big beans.
One black bean.
With respect and a certain
A
reverence.
couple of bleached ones.
We're the wax beans.
We're the ones nobody likes.
Oh my goodness. We're going to have to edit the hell out of this.
Anyway, we approach them
Butter and
initially with respect and decorum, just like you would any person that you would interact with. We try not to go in like you see some teams go in. We're not saying that's necessarily bad, it's just not our way. We don't go in with an aggressive or confrontational mentality or, antagonistic.
Right.
No.
We don't
We
demand, we
appro-
don't,
Yeah, we
Yeah.
approach spirits like we would approach people. Like
Yeah.
just somebody who's living like you and I.
Yes. Now we have gotten antagonistic, some of us,
Oh, yeah.
with entities.
It turned on by itself.
Were you pointing to me?
No, I was pointing out.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Antagonist? Who was the most antagonistic last time, Lance? Who was the one not being
So,
antagonist?
let's break down.
We also have those who like to break wind on the spirits as well.
That's rude, alright? That can be taken
One
as a sign
time.
of aggression. One time.
So let's go over some of the common types of spiritual or metaphysical entities that most people encounter and we've encountered, I think. And I think it'd be easiest to start off with what you'll hear ghost hunters and paranormal investigators and other people in the field refer to as a residual hunting. Lise, you wanna?
Nose goes.
No, yeah.
Let Dad start. He's residual.
Residual haunting, I think I've said this before, is almost like a recording in time, right? We put out energy when we are we're doing our everyday things, right? It doesn't have to be emotional, which could also be the case, but just if you go to work every day out the same way for 60 years, you put an imprint in time, it's almost like a recording playing back. So you might see that, say you stop working, but here goes Shane through the door coming back home,
Yeah. To kind of touching on that, Chrissy, how is it that somebody would determine the difference between a residual and a different type of entity?
Well, with residual, like Shane was saying, it's kind of like something being replayed over and over again, and it's not going to show any sign of intelligence. Like if you ask questions or try to interact with whatever is happening, it's not going to respond or give you any answers or anything.
It seems to be the same type, there's like a, sometimes once a year,
That's the example we were talking about before we did the podcast, some examples of things. And my dad had a friend who lived in a barn that was converted into a house. In the basement, they had like a pool table and stuff down there. And they would see, like roughly the same time, like every night, it was a guy in overalls holding a bucket, like that would just walk through where the cows were. And it was like my dad saw him the first time, and he's like, "Who is that?" And he's like, "Oh, that's the milker." Like his friend, he's like,
You just sees him all the time.
"Yeah,
huh?
he just sees him. He just walks through like at the same time, holding his
His
bucket,
job.
and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
just that would be an example of something residual. Like if you were to try to talk to that entity, like they wouldn't respond. They would just
Right.
kind of like walk
Yeah.
right through you. But
right. And some of them are pretty cool. You'll see that where our door used to exist, and they're walking through a wall because the door used to be there. But there was a house in Franklinville. Every year on the same date, same time, a woman comes banging on the door. Help, he's killing me, screaming, and it's very intense
How did
and
it go?
loud, and the door's rattling,
Yeah.
right? Which almost makes you think it's something other than, but you open the door, nothing there.
And happens the same
Everything.
time and has no interaction with anybody.
It's not aware of you at all.
He tried to talk to you and just
Yeah.
completely
You guys have any
individual thing.
residual experiences?
Not that I
can think
recall of.
Most commonly, like you get stories all over the world of like we were talking before we started of like the lady in white or the war veteran who every night at midnight you see her on the balcony or things like that. We would classify as a residual haunting.
Like that story from New Orleans where the woman hails a taxi every night and takes her to where she used to live.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You say that. That's a
Yeah,
good one.
and the taxi driver, he had just came into town, and this woman hails him down, gives him the address, and says, "Can you tell my husband I'm ready?" So the taxi driver goes, he rings the bell on the building, and the guy comes out, little old guy, and he says, "There's a woman in the cab that says that tell you." I mean, like old guy, he's like, "Oh, that's just my wife. She's dead. Don't worry about it." And like pays the fare, and the cabbie's like.
Wait, what?
Turns back and there's nobody, but showed no, but it did that routine every so often that the widower, the husband, was so used to it
Yep, just
that he was
gave the
just
guy
completely unfazed. Like, yeah, here's the $5.
It is New Orleans too. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a whole different environment there.
So I think the next easiest and most common, I think residuals are pretty common.
Yeah.
all over the world, battlefields, you get lots of residual haunting
Yeah.
activity, Gettysburg,
Yeah.
things like that.
And I think the emotion is what causes the imprint in those situations. It's a traumatic thing.
And there are theories about like the makeup of the stones and water systems and magnetic fields in areas will lend more.
It's like an energy source, kind of like a battery almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably one of the first places I ever saw ghosts was at Gettysburg. I didn't even realize it at the time. I'm like, we were going by a field, they were telling me about it, my parents were. And, as we're driving away, I'm like, well, who were those guys? Are they, like Confederate or Union? And they're like, there was nobody there. But I saw guys, what looked like they were interacting a war scene.
Yeah.
And I thought they were just, reenactors.
Yeah.
Apparently, nobody there.
And most of now there's a lot of ghosts in Gettysburg, and some do interact. But a lot of the things people
there's
see,
some
like,
is residual,
Just
but a lot
marching
is,
across the field, shooting,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah.
and no matter what investigators or whoever has done, they make no acknowledgement. They just do
Right.
the,
Right.
Oh, and you hear their gunfire or cannon fire going, that's
Yeah.
residual,
Yep.
unless it's a ghost cannonball, and he's just really pissed.
just really
He's just hunting.
Mario style.
The rocket.
Yeah. So the next most common, I think, that people deal with and that you hear about and read about are what we when we refer to a ghost. I think we are referring to a entity that used to be a human being that has passed on.
Yep.
Typically. Now, in my thinking, that's a little extra because anything that was once living,
You
could be
classify as a ghost.
but not necessarily from here, and not necessarily human. It could be like we said earlier or before, pets. But
Well, that's the
I've heard stories
non-human
about
ones.
Bigfoot ghosts and things
Yeah.
like that. There's other things that could be out there that
Yeah, the
are
non-human
ghosts,
ones.
but
So you would
they're
define
not
ghost
human or
as that had a physical form
yeah,
and no longer does.
yeah, had life, no longer does.
Okay. So with like human ghosts or entities, say people that have lost their physical form, that's the most common, I think, that people deal with. that
That's the
shows
most
in
common we
college.
run into.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think all of us have, and we've talked about that in our ghost stories part 1 and 2. Our
it out.
personal run-ins
YouTube
with
SpiritHunters? Oh, well, you're watching this now.
human entities. Yeah, check us out on YouTube. You're there. Click the like and the subscribe and the follow.
Like, comment, and
And we should note
subscribe.
too that there's a myriad of reasons why they may be here. It doesn't have to be just one way. Oh, it was an accident, trauma, or this person's trying to stay with their family. There's a lot of different reasons why, and unfortunately, it seems like too sometimes things get trapped by other things on the other side. That's a future episode.
Website for all of our socials, SpiritHunters.group. Check us out.
And that's true. We could talk about that a little bit. We'll go around and give some examples. What do you think, Chris, that causes a ghost necessarily?
I mean, I don't think there's one thing. Like Shane was saying, I think like a lot of times it could be like unfinished business. It could be somebody's just trapped here. Somebody's like Shane was saying, like I pretty much agree with what he was
Yeah.
saying. Like maybe there's another spirit or something holding them back.
Sometimes
Maybe-
it's like a frightened kid. That's
Or
just,
maybe they
Honestly,
just
I think
simply
maybe
don't
they
want to
want
go.
to-
They just want to hang out and
Well,
stay
that's what
around.
I was. Sometimes I think they just want to stick around. Like maybe they want to look over their family. Maybe I also think that things can cross over back and forth.
Different
They can
planes.
go like to the after. They're in the
Yeah.
afterlife. They can go wherever and then come back and visit their loved ones. Like maybe there's a way
we
to
tend to
cross
think that
over.
that's more of a it's a different type of spirit. That's a spirit that's actually gone on and has the ability to come back. But that's Anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay, like I think, like not just one. It's not just a traumatic thing. It could be a myriad of different reasons why.
Want to get a message to their family and trying to find somebody that can pass it on because their family doesn't
Well,
acknowledge.
right, and
Or have the capacity to.
in this, half this, a lot of the people in this planet have religions where they feel like there's heaven and hell, right? They're very distinct. And sometimes it's people that just don't want to, because they
Risk
perceive
face the
themselves to have to face
consequences
the
of it.
consequences, and they'll hold back. That just simply, you don't see a lot of names like that because they have a whole different understanding.
Yeah.
And a lot of indigenous peoples seem to not have that necessarily, but
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people maybe who feel like like an entity that feels like that they might have some repercussions coming to them, maybe it would be less likely to be like, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna go and just see what happens.
I
Like,
was an ass in life. I
I'm
think
gonna
I'll just
stick
stay
around
out
here for a little while.
It's not so bad,
Well, there's TV movies that they are bound until they rectify something that they did wrong.
And that may be another
And that
possible
could be.
scenario. It could be, before they even get to that next level, something they have to go through to be able to,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also think, like you guys were saying about something that just sticks around, and I think we've talked about this before, is their perception of time is totally different to us.
Right.
Yeah.
Our time for us is,
Well, it's linear.
yeah, and it's perceived on how long we survive. Like we measure time in a physical form,
sit for
where
Lisa.
yeah. If you're a entity that has forever, like if the ghost has been haunting this castle for 200 years, like what's 200 years to?
Yeah, they're not
That's not a long period of time.
And also-
Drop in a bucket. And the whole
Sometimes
goes.
they don't even know what they don't look at time like they're not in our plane. They might
Yeah.
still think they're back in 1942 or like 1900 or
Mhm.
1802 or something like that. Like they're still living in that time and they don't have
And that's
a concept of our plane.
That's a good
Yeah.
point too.
Existence.
'Cause a lot of them get stuck in their death state, or different degrees of their, human form. Some people will come back and think, oh, look at my muscles when I was young. Some are stuck at 95 years old. Some of them are living out that tragedy and they're, scarred or,
Yeah.
it's amazing. There's so many different scenarios that are out there.
Well, I mean, that's getting into some psychology stuff, but like the human mind is like we can do that in physical form. If you are, you know more about this than with Chrissy's a therapist, or was, but if you're convinced of something, if you can convince yourself to a far degree of something, you kind of manifest it in yourself. Like if you're determined, I'm sick, you're gonna get sick.
Yeah.
Your
Right,
body
it's
is
like
gonna react to
psychosomatic.
it.
You convince yourself.
Your
Yeah.
mind's gonna start thinking that something's wrong.
Yeah, and I think it could be the same for spiritual
Causing you to get a
beings
fever.
too, yeah. We know somebody who was convinced that they were pregnant and started to have,
Oh yeah, you
their
can,
body
you can
would start
trick
to
your
go through
body
the changes
into
of being
thinking
pregnant,
that.
even though they weren't.
Really?
Yeah, like
In the
brain
mind,
is-
we don't lose the mind. There's times where people have severe mental illness, and when they pass on, they still seem to have it. There's a lot of weird things like that.
Yeah.
That manifestation stuff. We're going to add that to a different discussion here in a minute.
Mhm. So we touched on them a little bit. Let's talk about animals and the supernatural. We'll changing the order up on our list here.
Animals in the supernatural.
So, Lise, you want to talk about? Do you have any experience with ghosty animals or animals seeing things?
Well, yeah. I mean, the one that pops out for ghostly animals was the whole mirror thing at, what was it, Genesee? Was it Genesee Falls?
Yeah.
When
You saw an animal in the mirror?
no. When he had me do the scrying thing
Yeah.
in the mirror,
Which might have been a mistake, but
I could literally hear like the little claws walking on the floor, and I'm like, I can hear an animal. I don't know if it was a cat or a dog. I couldn't see it, but I could hear it, and then
that claws on hardwood.
then I could feel it like rubbing up on my leg. So
and
I took
oddly
it as
enough,
a
while she
cat.
was doing that, she was hearing it, I could hear it too. And I'm just videotaping.
Which one's
Which
the
is-
The one Christy went to with us.
Okay.
The one with the bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was it that said something with the cat? Eating
These
the
two.
walls?
Oh, well, that cat survived.
That
The
was
one
a
that
real
went
cat.
I
crazy?
don't think
Yeah.
that was at Genesee Falls. That I saw
That-
it. Was
No,
that
these
was a
guys
different-
saw a cat.
It was
both
like
of them
a
saw
black-
cat at
I couldn't really tell if it was a cat or dog because I saw it out of the corner of my eye, but we saw it, like I saw it in the kitchen
Where's it?
of the
where?
one.
Are you
what-
talking about the Enchanted Valley?
Enchanted Valley.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cat.
I saw.
cat
I saw a cat there?
Was a big fat long-haired orange
It
cat.
probably okay. I saw a black, like a black, either dog or cat. It was probably like I
Did you
don't
see
know.
yours
It was
in
like
the chair at the end of the
no,
dining
mine
table?
was on the floor walking through, and I saw it. Like I saw it out of the corner of my eye, like moving through, and I looked over, and then there was just like nothing there.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh.
You went
I
like
was
this
lifting
and
myself
missed
up
his
and I
chair.
slipped out like.
Oh.
But when I saw there was a table at the end of, like this, and right under on the chair was this big cat, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize there was a cat here. You guys said there's no cat.
Okay.
You know, but I'm thinking, how did we miss this cat this whole time?
Yeah.
He was probably sitting in that chair. But then the owner, the property owner, said, no, there's no cat.
Oh, I think you had one of the best stories about the dog that was
Oh yeah,
gone.
I had a friend who in high school, their friends would come over and stuff like that, and then one day a friend of theirs asked like, "Oh, what happened to your dog?"
Oh,
And then
yeah,
she was
yeah.
like, "We don't have a dog," and they were like, "I've been coming over to here for years. Yeah, you got a little like black dog, like a cockapoo kind of thing." She was like, "We've never had a dog." So she started to ask her other friend, didn't tell them like, "Oh, this nut job," like just called whoever, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, have you ever seen my dog? And all of them went, "Oh yeah, the little black like curly haired dog." Like there's no dog there, but multiple people over years.
They see that dog
I've seen
when
it
they
like
come
down
in
the
the house.
hallway and it'd like look and go into a room.
Did they ever find out whose dog, like who
No.
had a dog like that there?
Nope.
So
Nope.
you're
But it was so like solid
Yeah.
that just all their friends thought the family just had a dog.
That's
They didn't
really
even think
cool that
anything
they
of it.
like they obviously they reached out and petted it at some point.
No, it would
they
have never
didn't.
come near
Oh,
them.
okay. Because
They'd
I was gonna
see
say
it-
like that would.
They'd
No,
see
they
it
shy
like
away from
look
it.
out of
Okay.
a room and like go across the hall and
Gotcha.
stuff like
Hide
that.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just thought it was, just a
So
shy.
I was like, that
skittish,
would be
yeah,
really
whatever.
super weird if they were actually
that'd be
like they could
nuts.
feel it. Like,
Well, we have a friend who feels pets. You want to tell them about that?
They
There,
feel-
appropriate.
their pet feels.
Excuse me?
I don't know what you're referring
What?
to.
Do
Uh,
come again?
I don't know. They'd want their name on camera,
Catch a
but
predator.
To catch a petator.
A petitor.
anyway, we know somebody who regularly feels their cat get up on their bed at night and like do the little cat knee
Oh,
thing and then
yes.
like lay down with them. You
Yes,
know,
and snuggle
just,
them.
just like like any cat does, and then they reach to pet it and there's no cat there.
I've actually heard of
But they used to have a
multiple-
cat that did that.
Yes.
I've heard of multiple people who have had like mainly more so cats because they like to sleep on your feet,
Yeah.
but like the pet coming up and laying like on their feet or next to their feet, and then like they're like, wait a second, the cat died
no
like
longer here,
a month
yeah.
ago, but like the cat will still come
It's
and
amazing how many calls
Yeah.
and people that get in contact with us saying they see
Mhm.
their pets. Our cat, one of our cats, passed away this past winter, and 3-4 times I felt it come. You know how he would rub up against you and then flop on your feet, just like right on his side.
Yeah.
I felt that, and Hope felt it once. Same kind of thing, you know.
Well, we had a dog that we really loved that died. But at 6 o'clock every day, the church bells ring, and he would sing and howl and harmonize with them. And after he was gone, even periodically now, I'd hear him singing at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I actually had a couple of times too, not
You
recently,
wake up
but
and say, "Shut up, you damn dog!"
yeah.
No, 6 o'clock in the evening when the church
Oh, in the
bells
evening.
go off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he'd just be singing, same as always.
I'm insane.
Tell them about your spirit wolf. We saw him.
I don't know.
No, we all saw him with
put
our
that in there,
eyes.
'cause that's
Yeah, that's a good one.
Well, yeah,
We
we were
saw him.
out.
not 100% confirmed, but it's
Yeah, I mean, it was odd. It was.
It was
odd.
either a
The-
Six
ghost
people saw him.
or an actual big giant timber wolf.
that just
They're
disappeared.
Which
just
there is big
super
giant
stealthy.
timber.
Yeah, we were had a game night at our friend's house, and we're outside, and heard the the claws on the pavement coming up, and looked over and saw a big gray wolf come
He was taller than the guy's motorcycle.
up the
that
driveway.
He stopped
Yeah,
beside.
and kind of glanced over Scott's motorcycle, like its head was higher than the motorcycle.
Really?
It
Oh, yeah.
stood there a
Sure.
while just looking
Yeah.
at us.
And then he went and walked and sat in front of our car. And from our vantage point, we were looking through the back window of our vehicle. And he was tall enough you could still see his head
In his eyes.
over the
Over the car.
over the hood,
Hold
you know. And we're looking at it like, okay, because
Everybody had their flashlights shining on it.
supernatural. Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, Scott and I got out our big high lumens flashlights.
Yeah.
And lit up Christy's whole backyard.
Yeah.
You know,
Which is acres of heat.
Acres
clear.
of clear yard.
Yep. And
Mode, fresh, yeah.
we got our flashlights out, and the wolf there, like I said, is looking at us through the windshield, through the back window, and then it like hunkered down so we couldn't see it anymore. And we're getting ready to leave. You know, so we got the flashlights and we're waiting to see where it goes, and it didn't. As far as we could see,
It
and
didn't
we
go
had,
anywhere.
1,500 lumens, like
Oh,
that
more
that
than
backyard
that,
is
yeah.
like lit up.
Yeah.
And like this guy is big,
Yeah.
and we got at least an acre clear that we're looking at, and so we're waiting to see where it goes, and hasn't moved. So we start to go around so we can see the front of the car, but like keeping our distance because
Yeah.
there's a big boy.
Yeah.
And I think Sam. I think Sam and I went, and Scotty kept his flashlight up to keep it illuminated.
Yeah.
Get around the front, and it's just gone.
It was not there at
That's
all.
not there at all.
And it did not run anywhere because we were all
Yeah, he was very
wild.
stealthy.
And the
because he's
close
a
was close. The
big
car was
boy.
close by.
And why would he
anyway.
sneak off stealthily to just walk up?
Oh yeah, because like when he walked up, he did not care about
Yeah,
it. Like,
so
he just
why would
like
he-
hands over.
If
Like,
that was a key, yeah, why would he sneak off?
It was odd, yeah,
Quiet
it was
and
odd.
stealthy then?
and we also think that
So I think he was a spirit animal.
pets also seem to be more
kind of thinking that too.
in tune with entities too. Actually, like
The other
living
side.
pets.
Well, like that story
they
of
can
that
see
cat that lived in the funeral home, and like, whenever the cat could sense when someone was getting ready to pass away, and whenever someone was getting ready to, it would sit outside their door.
The nursing home.
Yeah,
Nursing home, not a funeral home. Yeah.
That's what I meant to say. Sorry. Yeah. Should be there soon.
Funeral home. He's waiting now. It's already too late.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So every time one of the nursing staff would see this cat sitting out, sure enough, a few hours throughout the night, person passes
Yeah.
away, and it was
Imagine
like
how those old people
consistent.
felt. Get away, cat!
Well, that's why they kept the door. The cat was sitting outside, so they wouldn't know. Because if I'm sitting there and I'm 84 years old, and I see this death cat who senses death sitting outside my door overnight, knowing that he can sense it,
Yeah, actually,
I
that
shit myself.
happened a
No,
lot.
I've
no,
heard that.
yeah.
That story's so
numerous
prevalent
times, yeah.
that like Stephen King actually even has talks about it in a Dr. Sleep. Like that nursing home has a cat that does that because that's happened numerous times all
lots of
over the
times.
place.
With real
Yeah.
cats.
With-
They're
yeah.
not spirit cats.
No.
No, they seem to have a sense of
They do.
Yeah.
Well, it's like they have heightened senses already, like with like sight and sound and whatever. So
And
it's
they
like
can
they
see on a different spectrum. Their sense of smell, the hearing is a lot better. So makes sense. And we know that not every animal seems to have that kind of reaction, but like this dog under the table definitely has that kind of
It
It
reaction.
Yeah.
seems like cats and dogs,
Yeah,
especially,
lift your corner
like
up so you
they
can see
yeah.
really can sense
the corner
things.
of your banner.
No, because the
No, never mind. I was gonna say lift the corner of the bottom
Oh,
of the banner
they've
so you
seen
can see
Molly.
mine. Oh, have they?
My
and
house isn't haunted, so I can't tell you if birds are
Sensitive.
cute. Gambit might
And
just
Shane
attack
had
it.
Yeah.
an incident with Weshty. How long ago was that? About a month ago, maybe. And you said that he was sitting on your lap and he like jumped up and was.
Oh yeah, that was weird because I've never seen him act like that before.
She's hiding under the couch.
We've had other cats that were quite seemingly sensitive.
Yeah.
Wesh,
Yeah.
not so much. Wesh is a cat we've had 17 years. The other day, he hears something right over the edge of this couch. You guys can't see. And he looks over there, and he starts staring at something right in the walkway of this big opening, opening. And he stared at it for a long time, and stood up on the couch like this, and just it kind of freaked me out. What the heck? I've never seen him do that before. So I went over there, and I'm standing right here, and he's looking at me, and then looking at me, and he's focused on something.
Yeah.
So I put my hand to it, and then he goes, like, where'd it go? You know?
I think birds would be, because I had a rat who had reacted to spiritual entities. Like, he actually got, like, aggressive, like, you know, you had rats, like, they bush up and they hiss.
I'll have to
Pet
bring
rats
the
will
bird
be
in on
protective of you too,
hunt.
though. And
Yeah.
I think that's probably what that was. I remember that. The
Yeah.
Japanese hooded rat.
Yeah. So I assume that rats would be, birds would probably be, but I think some animals are so accustomed to seeing stuff that
They
it
don't
doesn't even
react
like.
anymore.
Oh yeah, it's just like sometimes when people get used to
Yeah.
a certain spirit or occurrence.
Especially if it's a spirit, it's in the house all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. And it also depends on the animal. Like, our dog, like if Skippy saw an entity, he'd be.
Oh, that was cool. So he looked he
Oh,
was
he looked
small,
like a
but he
little
looked
dog.
like a little.
But if Jazz had seen something, you wouldn't
It's
even
like,
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Just
think
like
it's-
with somebody come in the house, Jazz just like.
Oh,
I
she'll
think
tell
it's
ya.
also with
Molly?
animals. They
Yeah.
kind of like with kids too. They like younger kids seem to be more like in tune to things like that. They see
Yeah.
things for what they are. Like
Yeah.
us, like once you start growing up and becoming an adult, you start to rationalize things. You have all these other thoughts in your head. You whatever. But like the animals are just kind of thinking like, okay, I'm walking through here. This is happening, and they're experiencing things in real time, and they're there in the present.
Yeah.
So that's why they're
Well,
more
and
into
the same thing with kids. Nobody's told them that's not real.
Hasn't
Yeah.
taught them to.
Hasn't
Not
taught
to
them
mention
not
they
believe.
also don't have that abstract of thinking at a younger
Yeah.
age as you do when you're older. So it's like kind
Then
of
when they
Exactly.
They don't
start
have the-
seeing them and can verbalize and
Society-
talk about them, they're told that they're imagining it, that it's not real, so they just quit talking about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes they outgrow seeing them at all.
What do
Yeah.
you think about it? If they're little, they're still believing in the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus. Their mind is open.
Mhm.
You know,
Their mind
It's not
hasn't
till they
learned
start
to
getting
close out
older.
that
Well,
certain part.
Santa Claus don't really
Careful,
exist.
careful,
Really? You know?
You can't say that on YouTube.
Santa does
Oh.
exist.
Really does
follow
exist.
Santa
Santa,
and Easter Bunny do
everything.
Shane, what's
And
wrong with
Krampus
you?
exist. I'm just.
He might.
So I think that's pretty good coverage on pets.
Yeah.
So let's get into some more
Poltergeist.
esoteric.
Well, there's
stuff.
something here that says good,
Yeah.
evil, and
Let's
demonic,
go
and celestial
talk about
spirits. There are.
non-human entities.
There's a lot of those.
Now,
too.
I think we all agree. We all believe, right, that there's entities, supernatural beings
Supernatural
Beans.
that exist without a corporeal, without a body, that were never a living thing, right? I think
Yeah.
we all
Oh,
agree
we
on that.
Experienced.
Living as in human
Yeah.
terms.
Yeah, that it's
Who's
a
Sorry.
oh,
Our child is not here tonight, and you know.
no.
Anyway.
Texting her daddy.
An entity that never existed in physical form. A completely spiritual being. Do I say it funny or
You sound like
You
you're
say
saying it
being.
Are you picking on my accent?
Instead of
I grew up in
being-
Virginia.
You sound like you're
I
saying
say
You
I
say
say
bean.
bean the same way.
bean isn't like bacon beans.
Bean.
Baked beans.
We grew up in the
A
mountains.
spiritual
I-
being.
Beings.
We don't have
Beings.
eyes A
Human
pin
being.
is a pin, no matter if you
Being.
stick with it or rot with it.
I say being instead of being, so I kind of human being.
We
But
also say
an
seeming.
entity that never had a physical form, that was just born of a spiritual
Right.
nature.
I mean, I believe there's a lot of other things out there that never were on this plane of existence that always were some kind of a spiritual form, what we would call a spiritual form, an energy being of some sort. And there's lots of different things out there. I also think that we can manifest entities by intent, set an intent. If we write out a character, right, and say this person did this, and we all go over that over and over and over in our minds, then we tell other people this ghost is here, and then they come, they start talking to it. Next thing you know, this thing's going to be responding to them because they're putting that energy out there. They're manifesting, almost like a poltergeist
Well,
type
that's
of
with
manifestation.
that reminds me of some of like the hauntings of houses where people have like poltergeist type activities. Sometimes I think like maybe it might just be one person in the household, but they might have this negative energy within them that they're like
Surrounding
putting, you know.
And it could be one person. Well, the regular poltergeist is very like that too. You know, it's something that actually manifests into a physical thing of its own that can manipulate and start.
But it's just like the energy just forms
Yeah.
into
Right,
like.
but it
the-
doesn't have to just be like a teenage girl going through trauma and your dad's angry and mom's
Yeah.
frustrated, and all of those have a tendency to build something, right? It can also just by putting simple intent by multiple people. Sometimes
Well,
it doesn't happen.
that's what I think happened with, say, the Stanley Hotel, which is very famous for being haunted now, and groups have gotten really good evidence there.
Yeah.
The hotel that the Shining is based on.
Right.
But previously, there weren't,
Before the movie.
the book, there weren't necessarily
book.
haunted stories of the Stanley.
Right.
Right. And I'm sure there was some kind of ghost stuff, but not this specific stuff.
No.
And now, because of that, there's very specific things
Very
that are
focused
physically
intent.
Honestly,
infecting
even
the environment.
Amityville.
Yes,
Like I think that some of that could have been manifested by the family, which I have some questions about those stories in the first place.
Yeah, but
I just
like,
want to point out that me, Lisa, and Grandma this whole time have just been going like this, back and forth through you guys' conversations because we don't have anything.
spiritual ping pong.
We're all just sitting there.
We know of a house in Salamanca that seems to be the case. Not much stuff. Probably had some regular spirits like this place does, right? But then television show goes there because he's doing a frame favor.
Oh, careful.
But next thing you know, there's so many people doing all these things, and then they're doing different kinds of things, right? Ouija's and black magic, who knows what, right? And you're combining all
Stay
these
away
things.
from
Well,
those things.
here's a question.
Boom.
If you're doing things like that, this is just I'm asking you, and you can answer for the viewers or whatever. But like, say a place isn't haunted. Say there are no spirit, and you bring in a Ouija board, or you bring something like that. And can you bring in a spirit to a place?
Yes.
What do you think?
Here's your
Absolutely.
answer. Yes.
I mean, I believe the same, but I just,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And that's why we don't do that. We're not going to be, it's not our place to bring something else.
And we certainly don't want to just open up to bring
aggravate some
something.
people. But there's no such thing as experts in this field. We're not even experts of ourselves. But when you get in there and you're saying, you don't know what you're bringing, right? When we try to talk to things, we try to put that attention that we're only there for things that are existing. We do not want to invite something else to somebody else's property.
I think
Never invite something.
And that's why, like, when we're on our lives and stuff, and people are like, "Oh, do you do seances? Do you do
Ouija
like,
boards
Ouija
and-
boards?" And
no.
no, we don't,
No.
because we don't want to pull something in that's not already there. We just want to
And
study
you,
what's
like they were
currently
saying
there.
before, you don't know what you're talking to.
Yeah.
You don't know what's coming through
no,
that door.
Just because you're talking to a little boy who says he's 6 and he lost his ball
does not
doesn't
mean
mean
that's
that's
what
who
you're
you're
talking
talking
But
to.
you're
That's
these
true.
people that go from 0 to 60 right away. From I want to be a ghost hunter to I'm a demonologist.
Yeah.
There's a lot in between that's worth studying, right? And you don't have to.
and you got to be
put
careful
yourself at the risk.
with certain things, and not everybody believes this way, and that's fine.
Right,
Everybody can
right.
have their own belief system. We believe, though, that when you're using an object like a Ouija board, you're sending out an open
A
invitation,
gateway.
Yeah.
saying whatever wants to come here,
Yeah.
And
which can be very
Well,
dangerous.
I had that.
you're pretty much
We talked
opening
about
up.
that.
Yeah,
a previous
yeah. If you want to hear
but I had
So,
Chrissy's
what do you guys
negative-
what do you guys think about the rods though?
You always are, you know, when you go in
It's
there,
kinda
you
the
say,
same thing.
first you ask for
I
permission,
don't think so.
and you ask for things just
No.
here. That's what, we probably should tell people
You
more
don't-
about that.
I also
Call
think the
anybody
rods are
in.
different because
We're
they're
not here to-
attuned to you.
You're also not
Yeah,
saying,
you're
hey,
not-
I
you're
summon
not
you
just
here
sending
to
it
come
out.
speak. No,
Never
you say, if
summon.
there's anybody here, like currently or already existing there.
And she puts the
No.
intent specifically on
Yeah.
things that are here.
And
We're not
it's
saying
very important
anything
to
out
do.
there 2 houses over, come over. It's
I also think,
you know.
and I mean, I could be wrong, but I also think that perhaps with like the divining stuff, like that it could be like your personal spirit guide, whatever you want to call it, is relaying messages from the things there.
It could be.
Yeah,
But this
but-
is another thing. When you're doing something like that, you're pretty much forcing yourself to be in tune, right? You're making yourself a little more psychic because you're putting focused energy. We say it all the time. Focused energy means a lot in this field, right? And intent. And that's what she's doing. She's doing that. This doesn't have any idea of her own power, right? And when you do that, right? When you're breaking in, you're saying you're focusing. I think that's why she gets such success with these spirits we're visiting, because she's putting that
Focusing
in there.
her own
her own energy.
abilities and
Yeah,
energies
her-
into
yeah.
it. Yeah.
And some of you that don't know, Lisa's, I suspect, I'm sure a lot of us do, that she's got a
Very
little-
attuned to
is
things.
very
and, like,
sensitive
Yeah.
and may even have a little
We
bit of
don't
a psychic
suspect.
side to
She's
her.
had
that
a lot of things.
She hasn't quite figured out how to handle that side
Well,
or
I
pick
think
up on it
that's what she
necessarily,
used
but
the rods
That's
for.
one
But
of the
yeah.
things.
it's I do think the rods are different because you're not giving I don't know, and I think you could be careful with the Ouija board
Well,
if say you were somebody who knew what they were doing and was
that's the
careful.
thing.
Yeah, and if you're
when you're
si-
using a Ouija board too, it's more than one person. You can control what you're thinking and
true,
what
too.
your intent is, but if all of us
Yeah.
are using the board, we can't control what the other people are
And
thinking.
if
It's
you're-
something like
if-
with a seance,
if
right?
your idea is to
you
try
can
to
say,
summon
I'm
something,
here to talk to these people, right? But it's like you just said, it's a group environment. We don't know what else other people's intents are. Even
Yeah.
in the best day, we don't know if something negative now is affecting Hunter in that.
or
Right?
somebody's
Yeah.
in a negative mindset. Then.
right? If you're
Right.
like if you're trying
Right.
to use a Ouija board to summon anything, you're probably using it the wrong way.
Don't
Now-
use one, period.
Yeah, don't.
And then see like with the rods too,
Well,
when I do like
To
research
each
and
their own,
everything,
but that's
To each,
how we-
but in
yeah.
our opinions, if you
Sorry.
care about
They,
that at all,
they say the same thing with the rods. If you don't feel well, or if you just feel like something's off, or whatever, then don't use them.
That's what I was going to ask
which
you.
you
I figured
had
probably
in the past
like,
when
yeah.
you just something made you upset or irritated or whatever it was. Well, we were at an investigation recently where she was like
Yeah,
something happened to her and really annoyed her, but then
And, yeah, she was
She,
done.
kinda just like
no
shut
And that's
more
what you
rods.
gotta, even if everybody else is pushing you, you're on camera, you're on 3 lines, Lisa.
we'll just say,
What-
hey,
you got to be able to have that,
Yep.
about yourself and say, look, this is it. You know?
Mhm.
yeah.
And like I said, and they're not an open invitation.
Mhm.
Like a lot of people, with seances or Ouijas are just open. Anything come and that can be
Yeah.
because you don't know. Just like we said, if we approach spiritual entities the way we would humans, you wouldn't invite any random, like just put a Facebook post on, hey, whoever wants to come over to my house.
Yeah. No.
Like that's dangerous.
So why would you
It is.
invite a spirit
Yeah,
that
But
can't? Yeah.
we should still say, even with the best intentions, things can still be, don't notice what we're doing
Yeah.
and trying to cut.
Because like we said before, you never know what you're talking to. It may be like, oh well, I'm your grandmother who passed away 3 weeks ago, and it's something completely different. Never
Trying to
even-
trick you.
Exactly.
And these are just the opinions and views of spirit hunters, and other people may have different ones.
Which is
And-
fine. Yeah,
we
we're
should
not
say
saying
too,
we're
we
not saying
encourage
it's
a lot of
our way or
other
the right
consider
way.
good people, because that's our precedence, right? They do different things that we wouldn't do, right? So we're not saying that we say this is how we like.
Is how we do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is how we do our group.
And
If
protect
somebody
ourselves.
if somebody wanted to come along with us which we've had guest investigators and things, we let them know, like, okay, like
This is
they-
how we
we-
do
Yeah.
it.
we
you know.
don't do certain things. Like
Yeah.
But what we were talking about was non-human entities.
Yeah.
And I think we all also agree that there can be good things out there that were never humans, but I wouldn't necessarily define as angelic.
Not celestial. Well,
Yeah.
maybe celestial, but not angelic. Yeah, and the same thing on the opposite.
And the same thing on the opposite. I think there are evil spirits that are separate from a demonic. Like demonic is specific,
Yeah.
a certain type of creature from hell, which I do believe exists. I do believe there are great
Yeah.
evil beings.
Yeah.
Beings, evil beings.
And there's a lot of stuff that's
Notice how you looked at you and
maybe
said evil
elementally
beings.
related,
Yeah.
and things that are just
Yeah.
being
care one way, less one way. Their idea of right
It's
and
a
wrong
bad
is completely
being.
different. They've never been human. They don't know how we, were
That's
raised
true.
in
Or,
society.
well, even things like, and this I probably is broaching on another subject, but what the Celtic mythology, Fae type beings, or little people have a different idea of right and wrong necessarily than we do
Yeah.
in a lot of the mythologies.
Yeah, and I
stories.
mean, if you think about it, who are we to try to, to them, smacking Hunter over and over the head,
it's
I
just
just always
it's
been
just
like
funny.
that.
Yeah.
It's
No,
not right and wrong.
but I think
Do you, because you mentioned little people,
yeah.
do we, since and we're kind of on that topic, do you want to just tell them real quick? What do you
I mean,
think they are?
some get offended. I mean, all cultures,
There's other
I
cultures
think, around
that,
the world have.
They're all
I know,
Similar.
even in,
of what
remember
they,
I was
yeah.
researching like
Yeah.
Ireland and Poland.
Ireland
I
and
believe,
Poland.
Like they
Yeah.
have like their own version
Just
of
Norse.
on every continent, there are stories about.
Almost every
Yeah, and
religion,
little
belief
people.
system.
Sometimes in some
everything.
cultures they might be more depicted as mischievous. They like it just depends on. But a lot of the stories are similar throughout the different
Yeah,
cultures.
I think
Small-
even fairies are very similar, like in
Yes.
Europe,
Yeah.
a small entity that has a physical presence, but also has a
very
spiritual
presence
presence.
too.
Can be mischievous.
Yeah.
When I say
mischievous and-
mischievous, like I mean like
Oh yeah.
might move
Like
things,
if you-
hide
they'll
things,
take your
like
your
different things
car
like
keys
that.
and
Yeah.
put them in this
What we
place.
consider
or-
mischievous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we should say that they're able to go into both or multiple
Yes.
planes of existence.
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
and
So
al-
that's a big.
almost every culture around the world. Like
I mean, I
if you,
even think like
if you take
leprechauns
out,
would
yeah,
be a
that's what I was
version
gonna
of
say. If you
little
take out the
leprechauns,
Hollywood idea
yeah.
of leprechauns
Elves,
and look
Mhm.
at the actual,
yeah.
The
traditional
Hispanic,
stories.
Mexican one, that
Mhm.
little
yep,
goblin trolls,
Yeah,
gnomes, all of
Polish,
them.
Oh, South America, there's several different.
Yeah.
Norwegians have
Yeah.
lots of
Yep.
different versions and different, like they have good ones and bad ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah.
Same with Peruvians. They even have one with backward little legs,
Yeah.
It's really cool. Lives in caves.
And I think the non-human evil entities, I think that's what we ran into at the Mimic
The
House.
mimic house.
I don't think that was a demon,
No.
No.
but
It was
the
once
way
something very negative.
it was negative, definitely negative. Now, I wouldn't even say
And-
necessarily
Evil.
I
It
don't
was
feel
just
like
like
it
a
was
negative
malicious.
energy.
Just
Yeah.
because it's negative does
I
not mean
don't
it's
feel like it
not
wanted to
evil.
harm physically.
Our idea
Ah,
of
well,
what it is.
Well,
Meh.
I think
I don't
it
think
wanted,
physically harm, but
wanted
I think
to-
it
My
Intimidate.
experience
Cause
with
fear.
it says otherwise.
For sure.
wanted to cause fear and discomfort.
Yeah.
And we don't know what feeds something like that.
Yeah.
It
No.
could be fear. Could
But
be anger. Could be
with that one, like I do not believe that a human ghost can like go into somebody's mind and pull out Aiden's voice, for example.
No.
We heard my little sister's voice, and we have that on camera, and
That's
it's clear as day her. There's
Yeah.
no question about it. It's her. She wasn't even at the investigation. Wasn't on a phone call with one of us that day. Whatever.
No.
But I wanted to go back. There is kind of what we talked about. There is a difference between just because something's negative does not mean it's instantly demonic or
No, that's
you know.
what we were saying.
Yeah.
Right.
The
and,
Dudley.
And he's like
The Dudley.
non-human.
What was in
There's
the Dudley?
celestials,
The
there's
Dudley
all
was-
kinds
yeah.
of things
Yeah.
out there, and maybe even alien stuff.
Yeah.
That, that are now in the spiritual
And-
form.
Yeah.
Who knows?
We
time
are
travelers.
a very
Maybe-
open-minded group because I know personally, even though we were not necessarily raised like in the church, that we would believe in demonic and angelic beings, and I
Yeah.
know
I believe
You
in
do
guardian
as well.
angels.
Yeah.
And I've had experience with angels in a human form a couple times.
We believe in
yeah,
a creator, you know, just
And negative things.
yeah.
yeah. And as a group, though, we're not really terribly interested in going to a place that is like a confirmed demonic type
No, we
thing.
don't.
Like, that's
Even
not
if it's
something we
got-
would
We do
wanna-
not go there.
Even if it's not
Expose
confirmed,
ourselves.
there's been
Yeah, we're not-
stories that
It's not even
demonic
about
stuff
fear.
happens.
It's just about smart, being smart.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
we're not stupid.
Well, not just being smart, because you don't want to make it sound like we're, you know.
smarter than other people.
Yeah.
But
So
no, I'm just saying that we wouldn't put that risk with our friends and family.
yeah, our group, our
It's
close friends,
more protective,
and
a
family,
protective
and we
type of
wouldn't
thing.
want to expose any
And
of
it's
our,
part of our
the
medicine.
people that we love.
Yeah.
Our
to-
unity is part of our medicine, right?
Yeah.
Medicine being our strength, I guess.
spiritual
Right.
medicine.
Um,
yeah.
But Hunter said something that made me think about something. I already forgot what it was. But anyway, go ahead. I'll think of it in a minute.
Well, I mean, we're actually
we're pretty close.
we're
on time.
yeah, like you said. I don't know if we're gonna have enough to talk about.
We-
That's like once we get going, we're gonna.
We
talk
didn't even
about it.
finish our topics either.
No,
We still got.
but let's
three
go
more.
to since it kind of relates to that to the, and it's a question I've not been asked as part of Spirit Hunters Incorporated, but just been asked in my regular life about entities affecting your emotional state.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about that in our previous podcast.
Well,
Even-
that's one of the
even- well,
things
people
we
can affect your
hit on
emotional
with
state.
poltergeist.
Check out the
So,
podcast right
obviously
before
the
this
dead
one.
could do-
You guys will see
Yeah.
what,
Well, yeah,
kind of
that's
what
a-
we're talking about. So.
That's a good example, like what Shane said. Like, if you have you ever walked into a room and like just somebody's in a bad mood and you just feel that energy, and then
Yeah,
other
you're like,
people like almost absorb.
What did I just
the-
walk into? Can I get
But
into this?
it's the same thing
Yeah.
with like with spirits. Like if they have like a negative presence, you can. It's almost like you absorb that like energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can
Positive,
feel it.
there's lots of different
It
things.
can cause emotional changes. It can cause physical like
Yep.
symptoms. Like the
we
one
talked
time I
about
had
getting
the.
sick at that building.
Yeah.
And I got that really bad
Yeah,
kidney
kidney
pain
Well,
in the
like
one.
like Lance was just saying in our last podcast, Chrissy, with her pain, like our last investigation, which was last weekend, everybody had something negative
Yeah.
come over them
Physically.
physically, whether it be nausea, lightheadedness,
Indigestion,
anger,
heartburn.
you know, irritable, you know, being whatever,
Yeah.
you know, something manipulated.
Something was
All of us
And
there.
you had experience, I don't know personally, but I know you know new people, Mom, that had a negative thing in their house that caused relationship troubles.
Oh yeah, that happens
yeah.
often.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it happens a lot.
And at least in your house you grew up in, did that whatever the hell was in there affect your guys'
We had a lot of stuff.
emotions or
I mean,
well-being feelings?
I don't really remember like a whole lot of stuff, but the things that I do remember, I mean, I wasn't scared. I
Okay.
didn't like.
Well,
I
her
don't
siblings
think-
were. A lot of her siblings were. I've heard
Yeah,
stories.
but you didn't feel like it would make you
I didn't
guys
feel like threatened or anything.
angry
Or,
or-
Right.
mm-mm.
Were you the oldest?
No,
No.
Who's the oldest?
done right.
Oh, I knew that.
Lisa's
Sorry.
like, no.
I just spaced out. It's almost 1 o'clock in the morning. So.
So I think we all agree, yeah, like they can definitely have an effect on your emotional state.
Mhm.
And some, I think they'd have to be stronger, but can have a actual physical, you know, causing pains, headaches, nausea.
It also
dizziness.
depends.
Well, that's
on the
just
type
like,
of
well,
injury it's
I don't
trying
think
to-
you guys know. I don't know. Should I say anything?
And the person.
But I don't think you guys know. But here, I was affected by something for like, I don't know. I didn't even tell him till, I don't know,
Oh.
a while back.
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably for like 3 or 4 like nights, like days. I was just, I don't know. I just got like really depressed, and I just was like very angry, and I was always like I'd cry myself to sleep, and it was like in my head. Like I could hear their thoughts.
Recently?
Well, we lived in this
several
house.
months ago, yeah.
Yeah.
And see, this is what makes me nervous. Even though we were all talking about this, right?
Yeah.
Here we got somebody that knows and doesn't share it when it's happening.
Yeah, but
And
I
I
think
know
that's pretty
it's hard.
common too.
Yeah.
It's common,
hard.
but for
we,
her,
you know, it's
something
important that
in
we
her
know
gotta
that
know.
you know.
state,
But like,
she
but
is
like I
attunement.
told him,
You know, it's
I
not
took
good.
care of it. I mean, I did
There
it
are
all by
ways to
myself,
take care of it, which
But
we can't go into right now, but maybe
Yeah.
another program.
But in this case, it was
Program.
telling her to do bad things.
Yeah.
Things are programs.
That were disturbing. You know, and it just something 3-4 days that hit her, and something that got past what we usually do.
Yeah.
protect
To
our property.
protect ourselves.
So that's
yes.
why it's important that anytime anything happens with any of us, we like
We've
somebody
got
to know.
to
Something for the
share it because of our
call them
protection
And
rights.
and that's not. I've heard a lot of stories about something negative that will try to encourage people to do something
Yeah, harmful to themselves.
harmful to or others, or just kind of give you that feeling of well, they're talking about you. You know, they don't really like you know. It's
And a lot of that I don't think is even human. That's stuff that's feeding off of this turmoil it's causing. And sometimes there's jumpers, you know, that will jump you and affect a lot
like
of ways
attached
in
to
your-
you.
yeah.
temporarily,
And then there's another type of jumper that will, if it could get you to put to that point, or to have you hurt somebody else to a point, will try to jump. We'll talk about that maybe in a little more, you know,
So we gotta.
freaky thing.
Okay, there's several in-depth questions on here, topics that we need to get into, but this one is short. What about orbs? What are orbs?
Orbs. They're these things that you get on your
Orbs. O-R-B-S.
Well, orbs can be confusing and sometimes, well, 99.9% of the time, very hard to differentiate between
Dust.
bugs, or
But there's
Orbs.
other types
Orbs,
of orbs,
you
and
know.
we've all seen them. Some that are this size to
This
this
size.
size.
Some that are
If it's
colored
with a
inside,
weird center
rainbow
to
colored,
it.
if it's something that
intelligently
if you
moved.
see, yeah, intelligently moves in a direct pattern, route, whatever, or like you see clearly multiple pieces of dust go in this direction. This one for some reason stops and
just
shoots
going
back
or
this
straight
way,
up
or you know,
something like that.
I'm not saying that that's a orb in the sense of a spirit, but it it's
Orbs,
definitely something to
in
think
that
about.
form, are energy. You know,
Yeah.
forms of energy. And there's a line there. You sometimes wonder, well, if it's an energy form, and that's what a lot of these things are. They're a type of energy, right? But not everything that's in an energy form necessarily is what we would call spiritual. There are things that are, you know,
Yeah.
maybe
And
talk about on a cryptid level
When
or something
he's
later.
talking about like dust and stuff, we're talking about like when you're looking through the camera. But obviously, if you're looking with your naked eye and you're seeing like a floating ball of light, like that could also
Yeah,
be an
that's
orb.
an
You
orb.
see a lot of people
More
talk about
likely
big
than-
orange
Yeah.
orbs for something.
Yeah.
But like a lot of times on our cameras, like you'll see like the floating dust and it'll look
Yeah.
like a foggy little.
Right, and
like,
Especially
big
because we
fake
do
flares.
a
There's
lot of
of
older
things when you look at
buildings.
their camera that's different.
Yeah.
We do a
Well,
lot of older
sometimes-
buildings, so there's a lot. Almost every single camera is
Yeah.
going to have dust
Yeah.
flying through it. You know?
But sometimes you're looking at photographs from an event and you see these large, different size orbs all
I
over
also
the place.
think a lot of that are light flares and
I wish-
with the older
From
cameras.
multiple ones, some
Yeah.
all
I
over
wish
the
I could
place.
find
It
the
could be.
pictures. This was on an old phone camera. I totally forgot about this, but remember the dog I told you that we had, Buffy, that used to like almost seem like human sometimes? This sounds really
Yeah.
weird, but whenever I would take pictures of her, there would always be orbs around this dog, like all the time. This particular dog, and I always
Did
thought
she
that
was it
was
a boy or girl?
girl.
Did she ever have any litters of puppies that
No.
passed away or anything?
Nope, but she was a chow black lab
Hunter's
mix.
the dog whisperer.
And like it was just
You never know what
interesting
happened to
because
baby.
it was
It's
just
pretty
that.
bad.
I would take pictures of the other dog we had. I would take pictures of the cats. There wouldn't be orbs, but whenever I took pictures of Buffy, there would be these like orbs around.
Well,
her.
Lisa and I mentioned it on a previous podcast about our youngest child being real sensitive to all kinds of stuff when she was little and seeing things like crazy. And when we would take pictures of her or video, and orbs all over the place. You'd move her out of the room,
One video.
or the spot, put Hunter there, no orbs.
Mhm.
Put her right back,
Yeah.
orbs like crazy.
I think that's a good way to determine. And if you're looking at your ghost hunting footage to see, try to determine if it's dust or that.
And, yeah.
Kind of the same like thing we talked about.
Not everything you see
Look
is
for intelligent movement or
And if you do a picture, do a control.
If something
yeah.
for some reason looks wings, it could be a bug. Look for anything that could be wing. If it looks brighter, if you got 500 pieces of dust that look exactly the same, and there's one little ball that's
It's
brighter
bigger
and moving in
or-
different
yeah.
positions
Yeah.
or whatever,
you
maybe.
may have
You
some.
know.
Like dust will fall and keep falling, and an
Or
orb will
Well,
stop. Like
Yeah,
dust
and,
doesn't
like,
hold
change
itself.
direction and
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, like in the video from work,
Yeah.
Yeah.
where I worked, we had a flood in the bathroom, and there was an orb that went down the hall, and it's like
It went down the
right
entire hall.
before the bathroom flooded, you could see the orb, and it just traveled along the top of the ceiling and
Mhm.
went like to where the bathroom is. Like that was just like.
Behaving in a way that
Yeah, like it was
dust.
like, oh,
Yeah.
what's
Not-
happening over here? Like it
Right.
wasn't just some random, and it was like bigger. It wasn't just some tiny little speck.
And
you
there's
know,
other
so-
stories we've heard, like Paula at the Elks Club. I mean, she sees a basketball-sized electric-looking orb
Mhm.
going down the hallway, and it comes back out,
Yeah.
It's more believable,
Yeah. I think we're
Well,
had a pretty good session
Stop.
and had plenty to talk about.
Anything
And
else
actually,
in the thing that we really have to probably key on real quick?
we've already gone.
nothing we can't cover in our other ones. I think we should do.
Especially that.
The
quick
ghost
one.
music and the.
Yeah, we should
Yeah.
add
We
those
should do
into
that.
some
The
other
end of the
episodes.
different
Yes,
one.
like the
Yeah.
episode where we got it recorded, entity responding to music.
Yeah,
Yep.
definitely.
Yeah, we have to go over that.
Yeah,
then.
so stay tuned for more to come. We're gonna do some more episodes like this where we're not talking necessarily about a specific investigation, but giving our thoughts, ideas, and opinions on.
Let us know if you guys
various
like these kind of
topics.
videos too. Maybe we'll try to get a little
Yeah.
more into them.
So,
Like,
Okay.
comment, subscribe. Check out the link. Our website, SpiritHunters.group.
Bill
Facebook,
Robertson goes
I was about to say, yeah, you go.
Ghost Revisited 1 through 6.
75 cents now, Bill.
yep.
But with
Ghostly
that being
Chronicles.
said, Ghostly Chronicles
Is
is
Lisa's
Lisa's blog. She's got some cool
.com.
stories on there. You guys want to check that
Yeah,
out.
and make sure you check out, because this will be on YouTube, our
Experiencing
Twitter.
growing up
or
in
not,
haunted
well, not
houses.
necessarily Twitter. Twitter's kind of like just like a corpse.
Twitter.
Our TikTok,
Twitter,
and
Facebook, and
group.
TikTok.
Like,
Yeah.
like, subscribe,
Yeah.
comment, please.
Yeah, that all really helps a lot.
Yeah, it really does. With that being said,
Happy hunting.
see you later, guys.
Bye.
Take care.
So I start leaning back, and then it just highlights all this lovely.
Let's get some-
Something else
it
highlights your
depends on
the
who
right
makes
nipple
it.
because you got something white on it.
You got fuzz balls. Look at you moved it. It's right there now.
No.
Yeah.
What?
You know, his grandma like hits too hard. I had to talk to her about that. Like when she like tries to biff somebody, it's not like funny.
Tries
It's
to
like
biff
it's
them.
like
Right. She your hand bounced
yeah,
off.
like she almost smacked Sam's face into the table one day, and I was like, Mom, don't hit people in the back of the head. Apparently, you don't know what the
How to not
difference is between a
concussion.
plate slap and like I'm gonna clench your face.
Bar room, kick your ass.
Yeah.
Just knocks
You
him
just
out.
feel the hard ass jangly rings or whatever on the back of your
Yeah,
skull, and you're like,
What is she, Mr. T or something? She just
sometimes look at those bracelets.
I only have a lot of bracelets. I don't
Bracelets.
have a lot of rings on.
Mom's like, I pity the fool.
I pity the fool.
I pity the fool who can't take a biff in the back of the head.
That's right.
You can tell by how many dents are on the bracelet.